Ziaad, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of technology. But before we go into technology, can you share your journey with us, your leadership journey? Where did you grow up?
Sure. So good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm born and bred in Johannesburg. I grew up in a little town called Vereniging and ultimately been based in Johannesburg pretty much most of my life.
And tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
So interestingly, I studied law and I became a lawyer, and prior to becoming the Chief Operating Officer for IBM South Africa, I was the head lawyer for IBM, covering 24 countries throughout sub-Saharan Africa. So I fulfilled that dream.
And who inspired you to reach higher?
So I think my inspiration really came out of circumstance where my family spent most of their time, my parents, in terms of providing me the best education by sending me to St. John's. And really my inspiration came from changing that dynamic and making things better for other people and my family. So I think really the life experience was the inspiration of making sure that you're progressive all the time and you build on the experience and the opportunity that you're given.
And can you tell us, was there a turning point in your career?
So I think the turning point is really being given the opportunity to work for a multinational like IBM. It's the opportunity to explore great opportunities within such a fantastic company and really leveraging the products and services and the offerings that such a great company has. And how do you then take that opportunity and make a difference not only internally within the company to make it better, but equally use that technology to transform society. And as we speak a little bit later, I'll share with you some exciting things that we're doing through the use of technology to enable transformation in the marketplace.
So Ziaad, what is driving you today?
So there are many things, right? I think the first thing is leveraging my experience and my knowledge in order to make a difference to IBM and to broader society. I think being involved in multiple projects which have an impact for greater societal benefit is fantastic. And ultimately, it's about using all the opportunity that we have positively in order to make sure that people that are less advantaged get an appetite for opportunity to become better. And that in turn will help society and improve our country and beyond.
Now, Ziaad, can you tell us, what does the future of technology mean to you?
So that's an interesting question, because technology is really about becoming more efficient, using optimization, and really making things better, right? So for me, the future of technology is all about doing things smarter, doing things faster, creating progress, making sure that we have enough skills that are enabled such that people are more agile and able to, grow and develop with technology rather than being left behind.
And what have you learned from your own journey that you consider important for building future technology leaders?
I think the key thing is about developing skills along your journey, both technology related or otherwise. And there's no lessons that's a bad lesson. You just take the best out of that particular experience and build on it. Using technology as an enabler is extremely important, because ultimately today's world is about man and machine complementing each other and working together, as opposed to technology going off in one stream and man going off in another stream. It's about how do they complement each other. The next thing I'd say to you is really about using data effectively in order to make the best possible decisions. And we're living in a world of where data is the biggest natural resource that we have. It's a matter of how we mine that data, get the best extract from that data, and utilize that effectively to make a meaningful difference.
And when you speak to aspiring leaders, what do you tell them they should focus on for future-proofing their career?
So I don't think there's any secret recipe here, right? It's what's been done over the many years. The things that stand out for me are things like having a positive can-do attitude, having a good work ethic, focusing on your discipline and making sure that you're agile, and then ultimately continuously refreshing your skills. And I want to pause here, because that in today's world is probably the most important ingredient. Many people go out there, they get a degree, and then they stop, and then they think they've got everything. The world doesn't stop, so the world keeps progressing, and in order to remain relevant and essential, you have to make sure that your skills are refreshed in order to stay abreast of things. And then, the recipe of networking is extremely important. Positive, effective networking, the more people advocating good progress, the better society will be.
Now, Ziaad, looking into the future, what would you say are the key technologies that you envisage will be driving the future?
Yeah, so top of the list, I would put blockchain, right? I think blockchain has the ability of transforming all of society, all of industries. If we just look at, for example, the banking industry, we look at logistics, we look at all of those types of sectors, I would say it's just a matter of time before all of these sectors, really take on blockchain, because that has the ability of transforming all types of transactions. And then the other things that I would just shout out are things like, your IoT, which is the Internet of Things, right? Enabling smart enablement and transformation. Chatbots will start becoming used more and more often. I think the use of augmented intelligence, by extracting the optimal value from big data, I see that as a big play. Then we'll also have to start focusing, as we look at big data, on our security elements behind the big data, right? So things like lattice cryptography and all of the security solutions that follow the emerging technologies are equally important. Machine-to-machine learning, very important, because that allows for enhancement. But as I said a little bit earlier, we have to make sure that we get man and machine working together to complement each other, as opposed to machine and machine just going off on its own tangent. And then everything will be capped off by digital transformation. And IBM is in a great position because we're actually building a digital lab in order to enable such transformation.
And when you speak to future leaders, what do you tell them about social media? How they should be using social media to build their own brand, their personal brand?
Sure. So look, the reality of today's world is that social media is big. You have to use social media, but what I would caution on is using it in a responsible and mature way. There are many aspiring leaders that get carried away and ultimately forget about the real mechanism and benefit behind social media. So I would say, use it in the right context, use it as an enabler, don't get carried away, and don't get carried away in the wrong negative mindset. So for me, social media is definitely an enabler rather than an inhibitor. And the key social media sites associated with business include things like, LinkedIn. YouTube is a fantastic opportunity to showcase, real value out there, and also showcasing individuals and your products and your companies, etc. But at the same time, all in a responsible way. Twitter remains, fantastic. It's current, it's dynamic, it's agile. It's got all the right makeups of what is happening at the moment. But again, I come back to the point of use it in a meaningful, positive way that's responsible.
Now, Ziaad, as a technology leader, can you maybe share with us a success story where you mentored somebody and that person took your advice to heart and went on to achieve success?
So we're fortunate that at IBM, we have a great mentoring program throughout the world. For example, my mentor is the COO of Europe, and was the previous country general manager for the UK. And IBM has many such relationships. So locally, I benefit from the wealth of experience of IBM mentoring, but equally in my stable, I have a number of people that I mentor. Many of them, come to you at differing times to ask for guidance and advice. And, through that advice, you see them grow. They move from opportunity to opportunity, sometimes even externally, But at the end of the day, it's about growth. And many of those people, really take on the life lessons from experienced leaders. They learn to adapt. They learn to think in a different way. They learn to analyze, the differing circumstances in terms of how to make good business decisions. And I think that ultimately is a journey. So I don't want to pick out one particular individual, but ultimately IBM has many success stories in that regard. I would add, we have a number of other programs, where mentoring becomes part of that. So we have, for example, enterprise development programs, and we have supply development programs, and we have incubation programs. We have, development opportunities for our business partners. All of those programs are associated with some level of mentoring. And that's fantastic because ultimately we see that as an enabler. And the enabler allows for market differentiation and allows them to go out into the market and win. And for us, those are all catalysts to building a strong business.
And tell us, Ziaad, who are the role models of leadership and maybe leadership in technology that you would recommend future leaders should study and maybe learn from?
So there are a number of leaders, right? I mean, the world is really now blessed with many, many good leaders. But in the IT space, I mean, I'll shout out first to our CEO and chairman of IBM, Ginny Rometty. I've seen her really transform this business and continue to allow the transformation to take place. Our strategy is really very crisp. It's one of going out there and servicing our customers, using the right platform, and ultimately it's around cognition. So I've seen her, transform this business from being primarily hardware software to one that's really more cognitive, based on analytics, and ultimately focusing on the big data battle. So she would get a major shout out from me, right? The others that stand out, are people like the South African Elon Musk, who has done fantastic. He's taken a concept, really transformed it, gone around the world, uses technology very smartly, and using technology as an enabler in his business is his number one priority, which for me is remarkable. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook continues to transform the organization, fantastic leader. Tim Cook from Apple is another one that I follow quite closely because when you look at the mobile space, then it's not static, right? But he continues to transform the business through coding and applications and utilizing the devices as a means of communication, which is constant and current, but it's continuously transformative through a technology platform. And for me, that's fantastic. And then the last one that I'll shout out to is Sundar Pichai, who's the Google CEO. Once again, not static, transformative, constantly looking for opportunity. And all of these leaders really have one key underlying ingredient, and that's skills transformation. They all focus on skills, they all focus on the development of society, and that's why I talk a lot of society in the context of what we do. Because as we transform our businesses, we need the skills to come in and enhance what we're trying to achieve. So therefore, if a business moves forward and leaves society behind, you just create a vacuum, and we cannot allow that to happen.
Now, Ziaad, how can people connect with you and where should they follow you?
So look, I work at IBM, so it's fairly easy to contact me. But ultimately, LinkedIn is a good opportunity, right? So if somebody sends me a request, we can always connect and have a discussion from there. And I'm not very big on Twitter, but IBM does a number of feeds, and I complement and supplement some of those. So IBM would be a good host to follow.
And last but not least, is there one piece of advice that you would like to convey to future leaders that they should look at in their own leadership?
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll talk about two things, right? The first is utilizing the opportunity that your existing business has. So when I look at IBM, we have a number of programs that fall under me, including things like special investments and special programs. And I'll just name some of them. For example, we have an equity equivalent program where we have enterprise developments, and we have three specific areas, right? So we have aspiring entrepreneurs, we have entrepreneurs that simply just have an idea, and then we have really deep skilled businesses that are looking to really move their business forward and compete with the largest multinationals. So utilizing that as an opportunity, to make sure that those businesses grow, and utilizing the opportunities within the business for the benefit of the business, but equally for the benefit of society. So for me, I think that's something that, all leaders should be looking to do, is what opportunity do you have in your business how do you utilize that opportunity to not only benefit your business but equally in society? And that for me is extremely important. We also have the research lab, and the research lab gives South Africans a great opportunity to work with IBM and with IBM's intellectual property to really come up with cool, innovative things in order to transform, our markets and beyond. So these are some of the things that I would say all aspiring leaders should do. Pick the low-hanging fruit, use that opportunity, think differently, innovate with what you have in your hands, and make a difference. So the second part that I then come to is really about individual aspiration. And individual aspiration should be high. It's about taking every opportunity that you get and making a difference in a meaningful way. And what I mean by that is really, being solution-minded, being driven, and making sure that whatever you do with that mindset, you improve things and transform everybody and everything around you.
Ziaad, one more question. As in your role as a COO of IBM South Africa, what are the special projects that you're working on and that you can maybe share with us?
So thanks for this. I mean, this is something that's really close to my heart, right? It's about, really making sure that your job helps transform your company and society, as I've said a number of times. And I really want to get that message across, hence the repetition. So at IBM, we're doing some really special things. We've got an equity equivalent program where we do, for example, fully funded bursaries to disadvantaged students where we pay for everything, including their meals, their tuition, their accommodation, and the like, including giving them a stipend so that they can focus on their studying. Now, what was interesting in this particular program is that we found that a number of students were utilizing their stipend to actually send the money back home because their families were, really suffering. So what we tried to do to help them is really work with them from a management perspective around life, gave them the mentoring, but equally we needed to supplement their learning skills, right? So we got tutoring and mentors helping them on their academic studies to make sure that they are successful. That's the first program I'll talk about. The second program is around, skills development and making sure that entrepreneurs in the form of incubators, really come through. So we take these guys as aspiring budding entrepreneurs, we give them the right skills, we put mentors around them, we send them into the market so that they can definitely win. And any hassles that they have or any challenges, we're always available to try and help them get through those hurdles and acting as a real true partner to make sure that their success is our success. The third aspect is around the research lab. This is in fact one of the crown jewels of IBM. We are very fortunate in South Africa to have one of 12 research labs in our back garden. And what this allows is really entrepreneurs to collaborate with IBM, utilizing IBM intellectual property in order to become innovative and develop new IP and new products, etc., which could then be taken to the market in South Africa or beyond. Over and above these programs, we also have a number of programs around enterprise and supply development, and that's really around enablement and making sure that they're successful, as I'd previously spoken about. What really stands out for me is our CSC program, which is called the Corporate Social Core. And here what we do is that we get the best of breed IBMers throughout the world, handpicked and sent on an assignment for, I think it's 3 or 4 weeks, 2 times in a year. And we take this group of people, they all come from different disciplines and functions. For example, some might come from finance, some might come from business development, others might come from, just pure delivery. We put all of these people in a room, we take them to, for example, a NGO or an NPO, or alternatively to a government a department, and ask them for what their challenges are. We then throw the challenge at this talented bunch of individuals and ask them to come up with a blueprint on a no-charge basis and leave that with whoever the customer is, or the recipient is, I should rather say. And ultimately, the recipient can then decide whatever they want to do with that piece of advice and guidance and solutions. So that is a real fantastic opportunity for South Africans and South Africa to improve and transform departments. The other things in the education sector that stand out are two things, right? We have a program called DNA, which is Digital Nation Africa, and this is really around bridging the divide between the old technology and the old world into emerging technologies. So here we've invested $70 million worth of content on the web available for everybody to access. And this, when people go in and register and log in, they will be able to learn about blockchain, security, AI, and so on. So this is fantastic because why new employers ask for skills. And when people go for a job, the first question they get asked after matric and their studies is, do you know about these technologies? And most people will say no. However, at no cost, they're then able to go and learn about all of this thanks to IBM. And then we're currently working with the Department of Education around a P-Tech program, which is called the Pathways to Technology. This, again, is an innovative way of thinking about how do you upskill people and give people opportunity. This will help reduce the unemployment and equally will help bridge the skills gap that we have out there in the market. What this does is really in secondary schools, getting the kids from grade 9 to start learning about coding and a couple of other courses supported by a tertiary institution, such that when they finish matric, they could leave matric with a matric plus an associate degree or some course credits, which then fast tracks their learning and gives them a greater opportunity for employment. So these are some of the great opportunities and the great programs that IBM has been working on, and I am very privileged to be a part of. Ultimately, this creates a cycle of creating opportunity such that people that are entrepreneurs will have greater business opportunity, and those that wish to move into the employment space will have a better opportunity of getting a job quickly to start building our economy and our society.
Well, Ziaad, thank you very much for sharing your insights into the future with us. And also thank you for putting so much emphasis on society and helping us build a better world.
Fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed this. Thank you.